The final novel in my Jacques McKeown trilogy, We'll Leave the Galaxy for Good, is now available on Audible.com. Tell 'em Yahtzee sent ya. They won't care. Sometimes I lick the underbellies of sugar gliders for an illicit sexual thrill. See, first impressions do matter, and first impressions of Dragon's Dogma 2 weren't great because it's only got one save slot. One! Of all the trillions of numbers that exist, they picked the very worst. Fuck's sake, what year is it? Tennis for 2 had one save slot as long as you kept the oscilloscope turned on. Then again, while I had to go Steam folder spelunking to find and delete Editor Nick's cloud save file from my hard drive, that sort of thing always makes my PC game a dick hard, so I went into Dragon's Dogma 2 with renewed self-confidence, assured that the one save slot issue would never come up again. This is a literary device we call foreshadowing. So it's been a yonk and a half since Dragon's Dogma 1, and I only remember 2 things about it. The whole pawn mechanic, where you build an NPC helper and hire them out to other players while hiring 2 helpers from other players, which felt unsettlingly like the midpoint between enslaving the mentally subnormal and sex trafficking, and a rather amusing climb all over giant monsters mechanic that meant I spent more time than is comfortable with my face buried in a Minotaur's pubic hair. And Dragon's Dogma 2 brings back both of those, yay stroke boo, depending on your personal pube interest. Actually, it brings back quite a lot from the previous game. Even the title screen forgot to put a 2 on the end, which led to a confused Alt-Tab moment to make sure I hadn't misclicked my Steam list. But the plot's developed. After heroically tanking all those pubes in the first game, the Arisen, that's you, has been made King of the Realm, which is refreshing. I mean, Link saves the kingdom every fucking weekend. He's never been made king. The most he got in a sequel was a face full of dirt and transformation into a bean sprout. So the Arisen gets to be king, and what marks the Arisen is that they have the ability to command the pawns, who seem to be the majority of the population, judging by how many I randomly run into on the road. So when you think about it, it's kind of a roundabout form of democracy. But things go to shit when a scheming queen replaces the Arisen with a looky-like and sells the original to slavery in a foreign land. And thus begins the adventure of Dragon's Dogma 2. Although the initial situation is resolved in the first half hour by walking out of the foreign land, back to the capital, and very obviously being the Arisen. The rest is, paperwork. The story might sound full of epic themes and intrigue, but it's being pushed through the filter of the characters, and that's like pushing a hearty steak dinner through a tennis racket. Most of the time you're only ever around pawns, who are a bunch of tiresome suck-ups exclusively communicating in robotic repetitions of the patently bloody obvious. You are running low on backpack space. Having backpack space means you can carry more things. You are striking me about the head and face with a blunt object. This will ensure I sustain severe brain damage. Truly the wisdom of the Arisen knows no slib blurble glop. Except imagine all of this with every other word replaced with ought as a sort of cheat sheet Mad Lib version of Shakespearean dialect. Not that the ostensibly non-porn NPCs do much better on the AI front. Dragon's Dogma has ambitions to be a systems-driven Skyrim-like open world, and such things tend to be admirable from a broad viewpoint but fall apart in the small details. So I'd see a palace guard resolutely staring into space as 3 feet away a noblewoman furiously pogos up and down in a futile attempt to bypass a waist-high railing. But who cares about what's going on in Castletown? Let's go adventuring. Good idea, Yahtzee. Now here's 3 critical path missions where you have to sneak into the castle and collect incriminating evidence. You seriously expect me to sneak now, game? No, really, I'm actually asking, because I walked straight into the castle, and most of the guards didn't seem to give a shit. They attacked me at one point, but then so did the pig farmer I met on the way out, which I eventually put down to the fact that my character had unsheathed their weapon, and I didn't even ask him to. He automatically pulled them out whenever I did a dodge dash, and I was just doing that to get my cardio in. In any case, I'm not a fucking Watergate burglar. I made it quite clear on my resume that I'm most qualified in Minotaur pube wrangling. So eventually some quests to journey across the land popped up, and I set off on those. And a journey they certainly were. The ancient architects of our fabled land had apparently never heard of walkable towns, so every trip to anywhere outside the capital city was a lengthy slog, and fast travel is locked behind an uncommon consumable, which on the one hand is good. A quest is supposed to be an arduous trek full of mini-encounters and exploration, but on the other hand it's slightly spoiled knowing I could acquire fast travel tokens easily were I to complete the side quest Journey to the End of the Credit Card Number. But I don't want to harp on the micropayment bollocks. That always smacked to me of the publishing department going, hey, what can we chop out and sell for extra dosh, and the developers going, I don't know, this and this, and nobody giving it the slightest additional thought. So let's harp on the combat a bit instead, because I found it disappointingly easy, possibly because I was playing as a rogue, which meant I had one ability to pull enemies off balance with a grappling hook, and a separate ability to critical strike enemies who have been pulled off balance. So already we've removed what little chance the infinitely repeated goblin enemies have. But then there was my third ability to basically do a Sonic the Hedgehog jump and stab the enemy 19 million times. I hear magic users have a harder time of it, because preparing spells entails standing in the middle of the battlefield with your magic scepter and orbs dangling out of your trousers for a few seconds, but if you didn't instantly pick the class who starts with 2 free knives, then I don't have time time to explain economics to you. Not that the game was a cakewalk, some of the boss fights presented a difficulty spike. In fact, I was dying to one a couple of times, and quicker with each attempt, and I wondered why, until I noticed that every time I reloaded a save, a big chunk of my max health was getting cut off. Yeah, that's going to help a struggling player, isn't it? Telling them to try again, but this time with their legs hacked off at the knee. Do you even know what the word save means? Because I'm feeling distinctly unsaved by this feature. Whatever, the game also had an option to return to the last in save, so I figured fuck it, I'll tank the walk back. But when the screen faded back in, I was like, what? Where the fuck's this? This isn't the last in I saved at. This was like 4 or 5 hours ago. Oh no. Oh no, no, don't you fucking autosave, you single save slotted slattern! Fuck! I took a moment then, staring at my character's twitching buttocks, contemplating the afternoon I'd just had stolen from me, and eventually reached my conclusion. Suck a dick, Dragon's Dogma 2. You weren't much fun, and you've got all the personality of a wooden cutting board in unflattering underpants, so inhale the nearest convenient phallus to hand. Gosh, that's always liberating to say, especially when you know you can spend the rest of the work week breaking in your new inflatable sex doll, which you'll be interested to hear, Capcom, has 3 slots. This video is sponsored by Incogni. As Socrates once said, all I know is that I know nothing. The most powerful phrase in the English language is I don't know. It is the starting point of all education, all self-improvement, all science, and it's very gratifying to hear spam advertisers say it when they say, I don't know your email address. And that's exactly the service that Incogni can provide for you. All I had to do was set it up through its intuitive onboarding process and dashboard, and watch it go as it contacted hundreds of data harvesters on my behalf and strongly advised them to lose my details. Soon I was saying, I don't know what it's like to get lots of spam email. And through Second Wind you can get 60% off an annual Incogni plan so that you too can be saying, I don't know why I didn't take this offer sooner. Just use code SECONDWIND at incogni.com/secondwind. Just use code SECONDWIND at incogni.com/secondwind. Why'd you say it twice, Yahtzee? I don't know!